Hello and welcome to another devlog. I thought I would just have a general sort of chit-chatty devlog and talk to you about more recent stuff I've done with my game. I've sort of been focusing recently on tutorials on the channel and also the whole inventory thing, which is now downloadable through GDevelop, which I'm really pleased about. I never would have thought 20 months ago or something, when I started doing all this, that I'd have a little thing on the GDevelop store or whatever. It's free. It's the inventory that I made for the tutorials that I did recently, although I've tweaked it and improved it a little bit. So it's a sort of slightly better version, although the differences I have noted under those videos, so you will end up with the same one if you wanted to make it from scratch instead of download it. Anyway, back to my game then, and hopefully this year I'm going to end up with a playable demo. That's my goal this year, to have something actually playable, a vertical slice, I think they call it. I sometimes wonder if I have bitten off more than I can chew here. The kind of scope of this project is quite big. I started off with GDevelop, learning how to use it, and doing some prototypes and some tutorials, and figuring out the dialogue system, figuring out how to do an inventory, that kind of stuff. And then I immediately jumped into this project that you're looking at now, and I'm really enjoying it, and I've got loads to learn. I'm learning all the time, always having problems that I'm having to solve like everybody. But I do sometimes wonder if I've ended up making my first game a rather big game. And all these game developers with their advice videos say, do not make your big dream game first, make lots of little games. And I nod along and say, yeah, I don't want to make Space Invaders, thank you very much. I want to make this thing I've got in mind. So as a kind of meeting myself halfway, I've sort of strip the project back a bit. It's not going to be as big as it was originally going to be. I'm thinking it's a sort of thing that might take a player half an hour to finish. It's going to have a few locations, some characters to talk to, some fun, silly things to do, but it's not going to be a 20-hour type game. I don't think I was ever planning for it to be a 20-hour game, by the way, but I think the scope was a little bit sort of unrealistic for a first project. So it's probably not going to be as big as it was. The whole thing is going to take place in a little town that my character lives in. And let me just... Oh, that keyboard shortcut doesn't work on this. I'm in Photoshop mode and the keyboard shortcuts are different. So the whole thing is going to take place in a little town. This is just one scene that you'll recognize. And also there's probably going to be some nearby woodland that he can go into as well, a spooky woods. He might go into a sewer at one point, don't ask. And also there are going to be some slightly supernatural type elements, locations that he's going to go to as well. But it's not going to be this colossal sprawling thing anymore. It's going to be a bit more reined in, so that I can get something out for people to play before I die of old age, basically. And my goal this year is to have a playable demo. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about the big change. Where are we? Let's go back to Trevor's bedroom. I'm going to show you this in a minute, which is kind of like a mini game that Trevor can play in his bedroom if he interacts with his computer. But this also led to a big decision about the direction of the game. So let me just launch this anyway. So here's my protagonist in his bedroom. Oh, the random star there is so that he's got something he can collect, so that he can open his... Oh, what am I doing? I've forgotten my keyboard shortcuts here. There we go. That quest log. I realized as well that I've over-designed this quest log. You've got this really comprehensive quest log here with sub-quests. And my little character, he's only going to have 2 or 3 quests in the game, and it's going to be things like buy this or talk to this person. And I've designed this quest log, which took me ages. I was really pleased with it. It was a great learning experience, but I don't need a comprehensive quest log like this. This is like something from an open world Ubisoft game. I don't need a great scrollable, massive quest log. So this is going to go, and I'm going to have a much simpler quest log with sort of handwritten, scribbled notes and sketches and things on it, rather than this dynamic monster here that requires about 600 variables to work. So let's get rid of that. Anyway, so as you see, when Trevor walks past his computer here, and you might notice a little pulsing press X to start there. When he interacts with his computer, you get a close-up of it, and this continues to, this is a opacity tween that just loops. So when it completes, it just starts again. And I've got a layer effect on the logo here for this mini game that Trevor's playing. This is what's this called? Let me just remind myself what effect that is. Logo. Here we go. So wrong button. I haven't actually used GDevelop for a few weeks because. Well, I'll be honest, my dad passed away a month ago, and I've not done much in GDevelop, as you would expect. I've been busy arranging cremations and things, and I've not felt like using GDevelop. I've not really felt like doing very much at all. So coming back to it today, I'm actually feeling a little bit rusty about where things are. Anyway, so that logo that sort of ripples, I'm using this layer effect called reflection. But I've tweaked the values so that it's not reflecting anything. It's just making my whole logo sort of wobble, sort of shimmer. So you can get that effect by sort of messing around with these values. But typically this is used, well, to create a reflection effect. So you could do water and so on. But I'm using it a bit differently. So let's go back to this. So there, it just sort of slowly sort of wiggles, whatever the word is. Anyway, so this is obviously a horror game that Trevor's interacting with here. So when you press X, and what it is a text adventure. So I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember, these were quite popular, back in the day. And sometimes they would have images, static images that would accompany the text, or some of the text. Other times, no. I'm just going for a pure text here. And back in the day, you would type in a command. You would say walk left or look at the carrot. But obviously, I'm using Yarn. I'm not going to spend time setting up a system that recognizes any word the player might type. That's, again, I could spend a long time just on this. So instead, we've got 4 options. Well, it can be as many as 4, possibly more actually. But so you read this text and then you make a decision. So we'll go ahead and choose that one. This is kind of dummy text at the moment. I've written this, but it's not final text. But I just wanted to set things up. So let's go backwards. So if you're interested, you can pause it and have a look if you like. But so there you go. This has only got 2 options here. So it's a text adventure that you can win. You could get to the end of this, but there are other places where you could die as well. And I realized when I was writing this that I've made possibly end up making something that's a bit scary. And I thought to myself, well, I wasn't planning on making a scary game, so is it a bit strange to have something inside it that could be a bit scary? Would I need to put on my listing, on my game listing, that this is a horror game, that it's got horror elements? Because people might look at let's say people might look at this scenes like this and think, well, it doesn't look like a horror game. I might want to play that. I don't like horror games. I'll play this game. And then they get this scary story thing here. So, and then I thought, well, why don't I just make a horror game? Because I kind of always wanted to. And I keep leaning in that direction, and then I talk myself out of it, and I think, oh no, it's not a horror game, don't make a horror game. But I want to make a horror game. So I then thought, well, let's do it then. Let's do it. So, and also the text adventure that Trevor's playing here, that could sort of bleed into the world that he's living in. So there might be things that he experiences in this game that then happen in the real world. I don't know if any of you have played a game called Stories Untold. It's absolutely wonderful, and it's a collection of sort of mini games, really. Well, not mini game, not in the kind of WarioWare sense, but it's a collection of short sort of games, short experiences. One of them is where you're playing a text adventure, and it similar to what I'm doing here. It's sort of it's like a retro computer that you interact with, and you type in commands: go left, look at the door, this kind of stuff. But the world around the player is also being affected. So the text adventure might say the phone is ringing, and the phone on your desk will start ringing, and it makes you jump. It's really, really good, and it's given me lots of ideas. And I was researching text adventures because I've not played one for a long time, and when I designed how my text adventure was going to look, I wanted some reference material. And I already owned Stories Untold, so I replayed it. I replayed the segment, and it's given me lots of ideas. And so the idea that things that happen here, based on Trevor's choices, might make things happen in the game world. So there you go. So I think that's probably about it for this devlog, really. It was just a bit of an unscripted, chit-chatty devlog about where I'm at with things. So as I say, life got in the way recently, to say the least. But I really want to reconnect with this project. And I've made this decision to go in a kind of horror direction. That doesn't mean that it's suddenly going to look like Silent Hill, not at all. But I think Trevor is going to find himself in some sort of other dimensions or something, and it's probably going to be a bit of an odd sort of game, I suppose, because it looks quite cute. And you know, this is my art style. I'm not going to change it, but he is going to find himself meeting some very peculiar characters and finding himself in some very odd places that I hadn't originally planned for him to end up in. But it's early enough in development that a change like that can work. I haven't got so far. If I was halfway through the project and then I suddenly decided to kind of change genres, that might be a bit of a problem. But I'm still very early in this project, really. I've spent most of my time setting up systems, the dialogue system. And that reminds me, I've given the dialogue system a new look. So let's just come on, Trev. So yeah, I've given the dialogue system a new look. I've stripped it back a bit. I've made it simpler. We've got this little bouncing indicator here to show that there's more dialogue. And you'll see that the portraits, they tween on in a rotation and an opacity as well. And the name tag here, it's just it's a BB text object, and I use a yarn command to populate it with the name of the person. That slides on from the right. So just a bit of subtle animation going on here, just to give it a bit of movement. And then this little thing here as well. But yeah, I've stripped it back. It's no longer got the pattern, and I just thought it was a bit fussy. It was a bit sort of more complicated than it needed to be. So I've stripped it back. I can't remember the button for the inventory because I was going to show you, because I've kind of redesigned that as well. Let's pick up all these objects. So I for inventory, there we go. Yeah, so I've stripped this back as well, because you might remember this used to have a patterned background as well, but I'm a bit over it, really. I wanted to strip things back to be a bit cleaner. And obviously these are placeholder items, so this alien, I'm aware that he doesn't show up very well here, but it's just placeholder. And again, we've got this simple box that pops up if you examine an item. This is based on the code from the tutorial that I did, except I don't use a structure variable for the inventory. I use an array so that I can track their position, so they appear in the order you collected them in. The tutorial doesn't cover that because it was a bit more complicated and I had to go away and figure it out. There you go. So yes, I ended the video just a minute ago, and then I carried on. So yeah, I've done a bit of UI changes. I've made things simpler and cleaner, and this whole sort of black and white thing is I'm going to use in all my UI elements. Just keep it clean and simple. Yeah, now I can't remember how to close the inventory. There we go. Right. So yes, a unscripted chit-chatty devlog. Explaining why I've been away and the direction I've decided to go in. So a smaller project in scope than perhaps I was originally planning. I'm going to rein it in a little bit so that I can complete it in the next few years, rather than taking a decade. And also the slight genre switch. I'm going to bring some horror elements in, and it's going to be a slightly odd game where you've got this quite cute day in the life kind of vibe, but then some very odd sort of mildly horror sort of vibes as well. So anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'll be back soon, probably with a tutorial. I've got a little list of ideas. I just need to pick one that I think will be the most interesting. Anyway, have a good day. Bye.